In tennis, greatness isn't announced with a bang, but with a hush. No cheers, just a sudden knowing stillness from the ones who understand what they're seeing. For Alex, that moment had come, and the most important eyes on her weren't a scouts, a critics, or a rivals. They belonged to Mirka Federer. For years, the world had gotten her wrong, but when she finally focused her gaze, the game itself shifted. A 20-year-old from the Philippines was suddenly the center of it all. But to grasp the weight of Mirka's judgment, you have to look back. You have to see the person the world refused to for far too long. Most know her only as Roger's wife, the stoic figure in the stands, a mother to their children. The woman who watched 5-set wars with an unnerving calm. A composure so absolute you'd think she was forged from something stronger than flesh and bone. She's that. But that isn't the whole story. And seeing her as just a supporting character is the single biggest error the tennis world ever made. Born Moslava, she was a competitor long before she was Mrs. Federer. She was a pro. A world-class player who wore Switzerland's colors on the global stage. At the Sydney Olympics in 2000, she knew the crushing weight of a high-stakes match. Not from a plush seat, but from the baseline with everything to lose and the world holding its breath with her. A cruel foot injury cut her career short, stealing years she should have had. But she didn't walk away from the game. Instead, she funneled all that instinct, all that competitive drive into the man she loved. Imagine what that fusion creates over 2 decades. A mind that already knew the professional circuit from the inside, then 20 years of front-row access to the absolute peak of the sport. Every major tournament, every flight, every practice. She heard every strategic debate, every whisper about conditioning. She learned what truly separates a champion from a legend. Roger himself credits her for keeping his feet on the ground, for anchoring him when the storm of fame tried to sweep him away, but the world missed what was truly being built in the shadows. Mirka was becoming the sharpest eye for talent in the entire sport. It wasn't her job title. There was no announcement. It was just instinct honed by years of total immersion in the language of greatness. Then in September of 2022, Roger retired. And for the first time in 20 years, Mirka's vision was no longer tied to a single player. The entire landscape opened up to her. She could finally pose the question that only she had the authority to answer. Who comes next? The answer was already on the clay courts of Mallorca, Spain. A young contender was putting in the brutal hours that forged champions, working in silence long before the world knew her name. At just 12 years old, Alex had won the Les Petits tournament. It's more than a junior title, it's the sport's crystal ball, a glimpse into the future. That victory punched her ticket to the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca at just 13. Her family made a sacrifice only seen in the making of champions. They sent her abroad alone to master a new language and a new life, to fight for it every single day. Against prodigies born to the sport, Alex endured for 7 years. She didn't just attend the Nadal Academy. She was forged there. The clay courts became a part of her soul. She ate within its walls, struggled there, grew up there. She herself has said the academy laid the groundwork for everything she's become. 7 years of silent, grinding work long before the world knew her name. And this is where the story turns. The Federer connection isn't random. It's the heart of it all. Roger Federer speaks of the academy with incredible warmth and profound trust. The kind of faith you only place in something you truly believe in. He and Mirka sent their own kids there to train. He even joked they might return playing left-handed, a classic Federer nod to his greatest rival and closest friend. But beyond the jokes, that kind of action speaks volumes. It shows the Federers weren't just distant admirers, they were personally invested. They walked those halls with their own children. Then in July of 2025, Roger returned with Mirka and their twin girls. He signed autographs and posed for photos with the young hopefuls, and Mirka was there for every moment. On the same ground Alex walked for 7 years, where she built her own destiny. You need to understand that image because it means more than you think. Mirka Federer, with all her insight, all her history, knowing what it takes to reach the summit, standing right where Alex was made. That isn't trivial. It's 2 worlds colliding on hallowed ground. And someone with Mirka's eye for talent doesn't just pass through a place like that. But the Federer camp wasn't finished talking about Alex. And the next voice to speak made the entire tennis world stop and listen. Paul Annacone doesn't hand out praise lightly. He coached Pete Sampras to 14 Grand Slam titles. He was in Federer's corner during his most dominant era. When Paul Annacone discusses a tennis player, those in the know understand his words carry an immense weight. So when he went on Tennis Channel Live to talk about Alex, the sports world paid attention. He said she has a smile that just illuminates a room. He recalled her win over Swiatek, struck by her incredible poise and class. He said he respects her game. He saw the gift, the surgeon's hands, the instinct to strike early, the calm that weaponized pressure. And those words were a prophecy, taking the ball on the rise, turning chaos into control. This wasn't just empty praise. This was the technical verdict of a master craftsman. It was the language a coach speaks when he's seen legends born and recognizes the first tremors of a new one. Poise and humility in the fire. The very same words once used to define a young Roger Federer, and Annacone knew he was there for it. He saw it all unfold. So for him to use that same sacred vocabulary for a 20-year-old from the Philippines, that was no accident. And the right people were listening. Annacone doesn't operate in a vacuum. He's in Roger's ear. He breathes the air of that inner circle where Mirka, after 2 decades in the war room of tennis, would have dissected every syllable. This anointing came as Alex, seeded 31st, prepared for her Indian Wells debut. This was after she'd already claimed victories over players like Donna Vekic and Jasmine Paolini in 2026. This wasn't a coach gambling on potential. This was a declaration that she was already a proven force at the highest level. Already a warrior who delivered when everything was on the line. And when Roger Federer's coach validates your star with that level of reverence, the Filipino tennis world, one of the most fiercely loyal fan bases in all of sports, didn't just cheer, it detonated. Because that kind of endorsement from that kind of source is more than a compliment. It feels like a coronation. But lost beneath the legendary names and the headlines is the core of her story. And it's the part that must be told on its own terms. What she's accomplished on a tennis court by age 20 is simply staggering. It would be staggering no matter who was in the stands. She started the 2025 season ranked 143rd. Then Miami happened, a wildcard entry. An afterthought. She walked into one of the biggest tournaments of the year and unleashed something that tennis insiders are still struggling to comprehend. She dismantled Iga Swiatek, then she dispatched Jelena Ostapenko, then Madison Keys, 3 Grand Slam champions in a row as a wildcard. And through it all, she never flinched, never became someone else under the crushing weight. She held her ground in a crucible that would have broken far more experienced players. She called that Miami run the highlight of her life. Everything just clicked, she said. She called it insane because it was. By the US Open that year, she was beating top 20 talent and rewriting Filipino tennis history. By March of 2026, she was battling in the round of 16 at Miami. World number 29 and still climbing, still searching for new ceilings to smash. And she does it all while shouldering a burden most athletes her age can't imagine. She carries an entire country with her. Every time she plays, millions are watching, hoping, pouring a piece of their own souls into every single shot. This was never just about tennis. It's the fight for a nation's place at the top, a weight Alex carries. She's spoken of the mental grind, the pressure of learning to step away from the game to come back complete. That kind of profound self-awareness, that emotional clarity at 20 while shouldering a country's hopes against the world's elite, that's the mark of someone destined for greatness, and the legends take notice. Which leads us to Mirka. Because people who have lived their lives surrounded by the absolute best refuse to stay silent when true greatness enters the room. Silence in those moments is a lie, and Mirka Federer is not a liar. When she entered the Nadal Academy in July 2025, she was on Alex's turf. She stood on the very courts that forged a wildcard who had toppled 3 Grand Slam winners, a player already carrying a country with impossible poise, a talent her husband's own coach said was one to watch. And then, as if fate itself were tightening the circle, Rafael Nadal returned after a year away and chose Alex for his first hit. His first session back in 12 months, he chose her. His words afterward were pure class, great to be back, great to practice, promising he'd be stronger next time. The academy, the courts, Mirka walked, and now Nadal Rogers. Greatest rival trusting Alex to guide his return. There is a current running through all this, and it flows straight to her. Former player Alison Riskroge was asked if any other woman in tennis commands the kind of support Alex does. She didn't hesitate. No, not like this. She said Alex's potential is that much greater. A potential that Mirka Federer, after 20 years of watching legends write history, can see with perfect clarity. Mirka issued no statement, no press release. She sent no official message. Her move was far more powerful. She was there. She walked the grounds. Her presence in Alex's world was the statement. In the silent language of champions that says everything. And that brings us to a truth bigger than one visit to one academy. This is about the sport seeing its future in a new phase. It's about a woman, a former player who became the keenest eye in her husband's corner, who knows precisely what greatness demands, seeing a 20-year-old from the Philippines and recognizing a truth too powerful to ignore. So the real question now, the one we'll look back on in a few years when the answer is obvious, is this. Is Alex a legend in waiting, or has the world failed to see just how high she can climb? Give your answer below, because in 10 years you'll want the receipt. The call.